My name is Jamie. I'm the curator here. And we are talking about objects, right? Material culture. Okay.
Yep.
So we better get what we got. Material culture. And again, we're just going to reiterate this because that's kind of the theme of this whole session today. Material culture are the things that make up our lives. All the things that you can think of, like your bedroom floor, right? A bunch of stuff here, a bunch of stuff there. All that stuff is just stuff. But if it were Thomas Worthington's stuff, it would be of interest to a museum, right? Okay. Or if we were doing an exhibit on early 21st century kids' bedrooms, your stuff would be artifacts. We could actually include it into our collection, put numbers on it, put it on exhibit, and that would become material culture. They would become artifacts, actually. It is material culture, it becomes artifacts, okay? So what we're interested in is looking at artifacts and trying to determine the story that they tell, okay? Because everything tells a story. Worthington's clothing. You know Worthington got married, right? Thomas Worthington, we all know. Yeah. Got married. But to see, and I can't think of his wife's name. Anybody remember his wife's name?
I don't know.
Okay. You'll know this. But to see Thomas Worthington's vest that he wore at his wedding, you're seeing a physical item related to an event in history, and to a person in history, and to a time period, and to a place. Okay, so those are all things that you can get from an object. Okay, and I'm sort of, it's just like those, T-shirts and stuff you're wearing today. Is that a President? You all wearing the same one, right? Okay. Or his Jethro Tull tour T-shirt of '96 or whatever. They tell a story. Okay, so those are kind of modern examples, and we'll see some historic items that tell a story, and that's called interpretation. It's when you can look at an item and analyze it and get the information out of it that tells the story of a place, time, person, whatever. Okay. So historic items and artifacts, as we call them, can tell us the who, what, when, where, and why of the past or the present. Go home and look at all your stuff, and it would tell somebody who you were at this time. All right, and it's always good to be able to look at objects and to compare historic objects and to compare them with a modern day object counterpart. Okay, a carriage to an automobile, an old shoe to a modern shoe, and it can give you a good perspective of kind of the change in time, which is a lot of what we talk about here is change in time. By examining and analyzing an object, we can place it into a timeline of cultural events, technological evolution, and stylistic changes. Okay. Speaking of technological changes, I just grabbed this off of my desk, and you've got CDs that everybody knows about. We've got Colorado drives, which nobody uses anymore. It's a data storage material. Anybody remember the big floppy disks? Yeah. The regular, actually that's a zip drive. So, boy, talk about a technological change just in the last 5 years, 10 years. Big difference. So, by looking at this object, you can, and this is a little hard because it's pretty technical, but you can put it into a timeline of technology, okay? By examining and analyzing an object, we can view it as part of the fabric of society, okay? So we can pull out an object and say, you know, what does this tell me about the culture, the time period, the place? I mean, everybody knows what this is, right? It's a hammer, okay? Particularly, it's a claw hammer, okay? Now, you can tell, in compared to this hammer, which is a claw hammer. Which one would you say is older? This one, yeah. If you look at it, you can tell that it's handmade. Who makes hammers in a 19th century context? Blacksmith, all right. This is probably, maybe 40 years old or something. This is factory made. This is cranked out by the thousands, handles and all. So that can give you a perspective. You can put this in that time and place continuum. Okay. So you can talk about the fabric of society. You can talk about gender roles, men's and women's work, cultural identities, German, Italian backgrounds, African backgrounds, and different artifacts that may be associated with them. Sauerkraut cutter, I just saw one in our collection. You know that has some German background to it. I mean, maybe that's a generalization, but that sort of thing. You can look at something and say, well, there must have been Germans around here because somebody was cutting crap. Cultural, economic, wealthy, poor, and different trades and occupations. Those are all things, just different ideas of what part of society you can get just by looking at an artifact. Okay. Now, do I need a makeup change?
You're fine.
These are your worksheets, okay? These are so that you can begin to ask the questions you need to know the answers to determine determine the information you can get from an artifact, okay? That's what we're looking for. So, let me just run through these. You're extracting historical information from material culture. Okay, again, trying to get the story out of an object. As simple as that. Using objects to analyze and document physical evidence in the study of history. Okay, so first question, what is it made of? Iron, wood, glass, whatever. How is it made? Is it mass-produced? Or in factory made? Or is it handmade? Is it a one-of-a-kind item? And I know you don't have background in looking at the construction details of certain things, but that can give you an indication of its age, and so therefore its place and timeline. Who made it and when? Are there any inscriptions? These are things you need to look for in your object. Are there any inscriptions, labels, dates, maker's marks? Sometimes people look at something and go, I don't know when this is made, and then you look on there and it says made in 1840 or something. So it may seem obvious, but it's sometimes not.